Hello, you're watching Eastern Europe Review, a program dedicated to the situation in Belarus, Ukraine and Russia. This is a joint production of BELSAT TV and TVP World. My name is Dmitry Mitskevich and here are the main topics. How does the Lukashenka regime in Belarus supply Western components to the Russian army?
These people fear that if the Ukrainian military captures Russian military equipment, they will discover who the manufacturer of the tank optics.
Chechnya, blood feuds and the status of women as property.
Why did I leave home? Firstly, because of assaults, total control, threats, and my family's statements that you don't need education to get married.
Severe flooding hits Russian Siberia despite mid-May.
When the floodwaters started to arrive on the first day of the flood, it all happened very quickly. We were flooded within the first 2 hours.
Enterprises in the Belarusian military industry, which are under Western sanctions, continue to produce parts for Russian tanks. To circumvent these economic restrictions, the Lukashenka regime has created a number of shell companies, allowing it to earn a fortune from the sale of sanctioned products.
Neither European sanctions nor economic restrictions from the USA and Canada have prevented the Belarusian company Peleng from producing tank optics for the Russian army by purchasing components abroad. This has been revealed by the Association of Former Belarusian Security Forces, BELPOL, in their new investigation.
These are not only proofs of participation, but also of the guilt of Lukashenka's regime in the killing of peaceful citizens of Ukraine, the destruction of cities, and the genocide of the Ukrainian people. It's also direct proof of profiting from all this.
Among the products of Peleng is a tank panoramic sight, which enhances the accuracy of combat vehicles during striking. Several Belarusian and foreign enterprises and factories have been helping the Peleng company to circumvent sanctions. According to the BELPOL initiative, the Vavilov-Minsk mechanical plant, Ruch Servomotor, and Laboratory of Additive Technologies are implicated in the criminal scheme, as well as the Russian Uralvagonzavod and the allegedly Chinese company Shenzhen 5G High-Tech Innovation, which in reality is owned by Belarusians. According to the contracts obtained by BELPOL, the company Shenzhen 5G High-Tech Innovation was set to receive over $5.5 million from the agreements with Peleng.
It's necessary to understand the entire chain in order to determine where to direct the main efforts so that the money invested in this chain is wasted. And it's necessary to introduce as many sanctions as needed, both harsh and targeted ones, so that the regimes of Putin and Lukashenka won't be able to absorb the cost of circumventing these sanctions.
Peleng and its partners don't want their cooperation to be publicly known.
These people fear that if the Ukrainian military captures Russian military equipment, they will discover who the manufacturer of the tank optics is. How else can we explain the disappearance of the Made in Belarus stickers from the company's products?
When BELPOL discovered that components for military equipment were being purchased through a shell company in Great Britain, representatives of the initiative reported this to the British government, which resulted in the deal collapsing.
The same thing happened in Taiwan, when it came to light that certain components were going to be purchased from there. Taiwan severed all these connections and increased the fines by 15 times for companies working with Belarus and Russia.
Belarusian democratic forces are striving to harmonize trade sanctions against Russia and the Lukashenka regime.
The investigation revealed that Belarusian military-industrial complex enterprises could receive components, unlike their Russian counterparts, for example, from Taiwan.
The politician says that Chinese banks, fearing secondary American sanctions, sometimes refuse financial operations with Russia. This is just one example of revelations from the Belpol investigation, that despite successful efforts to circumvent sanctions, economic restrictions are nevertheless having an effect.
A Chechen girl fled from her family due to domestic violence, and her relatives are attempting to bring her back. They are being assisted by Chechen officials, while the police in Moscow are failing to protect the victim. However, this story has sparked outrage among Russian Kremlin propagandists, who have suddenly realized that the law is not applied equally for everyone in Russia.
A dramatic escape from a family unfolded in Chechnya. 19-year-old Lia Zaurbekova fled from her parents' home to Moscow due to domestic violence.
Why did I leave home? Firstly, because of assaults, total control, threats, and my family's statements that you don't need education to get married.
Lia then managed to escape abroad with the help of human rights activists who campaign against women's rights violations in the North Caucasus. However, the outcome could have been very different. Lia recounts how her family followed her to Moscow. One day, upon unexpectedly encountering her father near her apartment, she called the police and was taken to the police station. Her family followed her there as well.
When we arrived at the police station, there were about 10 people standing there who began to threaten us. The police pretended not to notice anything.
Lia's family stated their intention to continue searching for her abroad, involving representatives of the Chechen diaspora in different countries. Lia's father, Beslan Zaurubekov, said that Chechnya has its own rules and believes his daughter should be punished for having a relationship with a non-Muslim.
No one let Lia go. Everything was done to prevent her from leaving, but she managed to escape. We haven't been able to contact her yet, but we'll continue to search. Whoever misled Lia will be punished. We have our own laws.
Adam Delimkhanov, a deputy of the Russian State Duma, declared his intention to participate in the forced return of the girl to her family from which she had escaped. Additionally, the ombudsman of Chechnya, Mansur Soltayev, referred to the human rights activists who helped Lia leave Russia as swindlers and kidnappers.
Pseudo-human rights activists have begun to kidnap people. Fraudsters who call themselves crisis groups have actively taken advantage of the rights of Caucasian women. This is a lie and provocation, and talking about the infringements of the rights of girls and their families is just their dirty business under the guise of human rights activities.
Unexpectedly, pro-Kremlin propagandists were outraged by this approach. Some criticize it as a disgrace to the law enforcement system in Russia, while others are indignant at officials from Chechnya talking about an adult girl as an object that, in their words, must be returned.
This is how I understood the situation. In the center of Moscow, someone wants to kidnap a person, and the police wash their hands of it. I'd like to clarify with the leadership of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, what do we have the Constitution and laws of the Russian Federation for?
Lia's story is far from unique. A year ago, another girl, Seda Suleimanova, also fled from Chechnya. On August the 23rd, Seda was detained in St. Petersburg by local police and was handed over to Chechen law enforcement officers. That day, she was taken back to Chechnya, and it was the last time she was seen.
The problem is that she didn't realize how serious the threat was. She was sure that her family didn't have such connections, such influence, or enough money to continue hunting her for so many months.
On February the 24th, human rights activists received information from 2 different sources indicating that Seda was likely the victim of murder by her relatives. Despite the existence of a single legal framework across Russia's territory, in practice, different rules apply in Chechnya. Blood feuds and honor killings persist without investigation. What happens in Chechnya will stay in Chechnya.
A state of emergency has been declared across vast territories of Siberia in Russia due to flooding. In Yakutia, the largest republic in the country, approximately 500 houses are already submerged underwater. Thousands of residents have evacuated their homes, but many refuse to leave, opting to stay behind to protect their cattle. Similar situations are reported in other regions facing severe flooding this year.
Ice jams have caused the Lena River to overflow its banks in the Republic of Sakha-Yakutia, a vast region in northeastern Russia. Dozens of villages have been inundated by floodwaters. The most difficult conditions are in the settlements located only 80 kilometers from the capital of the Republic.
When the floodwaters started to arrive on the first day of the flood, it all happened very quickly. We were flooded within the first 2 hours.
The ice drift tore river tugs from their moorings on the Lena River. The ships were crushed by ice flows and sank. Independent experts are concerned about a potential ecological catastrophe due to the ship's fuel leaking into the water. The prosecutor's office has initiated a criminal case and is investigating this incident. According to the latest data, the number of people affected by the disaster has surpassed 3,000. Rescuers from the Ministry of Emergency Situations are traveling by boat around the flooded villages, offering evacuation to temporary accommodation centers established in safe areas. However, many people are refusing to evacuate.
I've got chickens and a dog over there. Where am I going to put the chickens?
People are primarily staying behind to protect their livestock. Locals have complained that authorities are ignoring their requests for assistance in relocating large animals to higher ground to ensure they remain safe from the rising waters. The count of the dead livestock already runs into hundreds. Most people in Siberia live off their land. The loss of animals is a serious blow to the family budget. Rural residents don't know where to obtain money to rebuild their flooded houses.
We'll have to repair everything and start from scratch. Construction materials are very expensive now. The damage is big, very big.
The severe impact of the flood is also being felt in other Russian regions. Hundreds of houses remain submerged in the Tyumen region in southern Siberia. The floodwaters are expected to peak in the coming days. People are having to construct makeshift earthen dams on their own in an attempt to resist the elements. The state has no time for us. The villagers are chiding them bitterly.
By preventing 1, 2 or 3 houses from being flooded, we help the state save money. This is spiritual and cost-free.
We're patriots of our small motherland and patriots of our big homeland.
In the Omsk region, which borders the Tyumen region, a federal state of emergency has been declared due to flooding. Many villagers had to evacuate, leaving behind their livestock. Now, cattle are vulnerable to the wild animals that have left their traditional habitats because of the floods.
There are bears walking about there, so I'm worried about the cattle.
The lack of attention from the state is also being talked about in other regions. For decades, people have been urging authorities to construct protective dams and drainage systems, but to no avail. Every year, local residents hope that the floods will not be overly severe.
They lie to us, lie and lie, our authorities. I appealed to them as we have a small bridge there. It's higher than the road. I told them to raise it up. That was in August, and now there's already water. Nobody has taken action.
The devastating floods in Russia's regions have continued for the second month. This year's flood damage may turn out to be one of the worst in the last few decades.
That's all for today. Eastern Europe Review will be back next Sunday. Please stay with TVP World and stand with Ukraine.